It's time for basketball, and Uber Eats is dropping deals on game day favorites to keep you locked in on the action. Like when you're craving a buzzer beater, but also buffalo wings. Or when an upset makes you want to ugly cry into a pizza. And right now, Uber Eats has game day deals from Burger King, Buffalo Wild Wings, KFC, and hundreds more local favorites. So you can keep your eyes on the ball and your hands on a burger. Order now, only on Uber Eats. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
Hi everyone, I'm Barbara, and this is Age Better. I'm so excited about today's conversation because we're diving into something that could truly change how we approach bone health as we get older. And when it comes to maintaining strong bones, we all know the standard but very good advice: eat more calcium-rich foods, vitamin D, weight-bearing exercise, and medications if necessary, right? All great recommendations. But what if there was something new you could add to this bone health toolkit that might actually help rebuild bone? Do I have your attention? So today I'm joined by Laura Yecies, CEO of Osteoboost, a groundbreaking FDA-approved device that uses vibration therapy to combat bone loss. This NASA-inspired technology has shown remarkable results in clinical trials with a focus on, drumroll please, postmenopausal women with osteopenia or low bone density, like me. This topic is deeply personal for me. At 50, after breaking my arm in a fall, right after I went through menopause, I had my first bone density test and discovered I had low bone density. And for the past 18 years, I've been doing everything right. The exercises, vitamin D, the works. I even served on the Bone Health and Osteoporosis Foundation board for 10 years. But with each annual DEXA scan, I wonder, is this the year I cross into osteoporosis territory? It's frightening. My mother fell and broke her hip at 83 and never recovered. I don't want that fate for myself or any of you. That's why when I learned about Osteoboost science, I knew that Laura had to join us on the show. Laura's background adds a fascinating dimension. She transitioned from leading major tech companies to pioneering this medical device, bringing a unique perspective to healthcare innovation. Listen, for more about Laura and Osteoboost, check the links in our show notes, including an excellent video where Laura discusses the technology in really great detail. I love this video, and you all should watch it. If you have questions after listening, email them to me at agebetterpodcast@gmail.com, and I'll get them answered. All right, everyone, get ready to age better. Hey, Laura, welcome to Age Better.
Thanks, Barbara. So glad to be here.
So anytime the topic is bone health, I'm totally in. I'm a bit obsessed with bone health. I personally have low bone density, osteopenia, and I've been on the board of the Bone Health and Osteoporosis Foundation for 10 years, and I oversee our marathon team. So bone health is like a huge part of my personal and professional life. So this is really going to be a fun conversation because this is a game-changing product, and I'm really looking forward to my audience learning more about it. So let's get right to it. We're talking about Osteoboost. So starting with the basics, Osteoboost uses vibration, like a vibration therapy. So tell us, what is that like? Do I just like strap it on and walk about, make my coffee, or how does this work?
Well, you're kind of on exactly the right path of describing it. So it's a precision vibration device. It's an FDA Class 2 medical device that went through a full approval process with the FDA, requires a prescription, but it's a wearable device. So you kind of have the best of both worlds of something that's really been rigorously vetted from a scientific point of view, but something that's very easy to use and wear as a consumer device. More specifically, it uses vibration therapy. There's a vibration pack that's integrated into a belt. It's worn very low on the hip, so the vibration is applied directly to the sacrum, right at the very base of the spine. and you wear it snugly around the hips. And there's a number of features in there that are designed to be sure that the really precise type of vibration is being transmitted to the hips and lumbar spine. And you wear it for 30 minutes a day. It feels, for most people, very good. We have many patients who say it kind of feels like a massage. It's soothing. It's fairly quiet. The belt weighs just a few pounds. So I wear mine typically when I go for a walk or at my standing desk. But yeah, it's very easy to use. And generally, we hear from patients that it's super comfortable.
So the NASA connection or inspiration is really, really cool. How did studying astronauts and their bone loss, and we know this to be true, then that we go up in space, that they do lose bone. And so this was inspired by studies done on astronauts. Tell us about that, because it's fascinating.
The reason why astronauts lose bone density in space, and by the way, they lose a couple percent per month, and that's like what we would lose in a full year, is because there's no natural stimulation to the bones. You know how your doctors say get weight-bearing exercise? Well, no weight-bearing in space because there's zero gravity.
Zero gravity.
And so NASA, as astronauts were in space for longer periods of time, NASA knew that this was a tremendous issue, and they were looking for ways to maintain bone health for astronauts. And so they funded the studies of whole body vibration platforms. And these are platforms that you stand on, and there's vibration, and the vibration goes up through the body. And there was pretty good data for astronauts. Although generally speaking, if you look at the studies on whole body vibration, particularly low intensity vibration, which is what is really viewed as most safe and appropriate for people with bone density issues, the vibration dissipates when it goes up the skeleton. So a lot of the effect size they saw was like in the ankles and feet and lower leg. And of course, it's good to improve bone density there. But what we know is that the hips and lumbar spine are where you have kind of the most devastating fractures. The most common hip fractures are the most deadly. Vertebral fractures are the most common osteoporotic fracture. And so our founder and inventor, who's a physician and physical medicine and pain doctor, and he had been seeing all these patients with vertebral compression fractures, and they were in so much pain. He had the idea of, can we take this same type of vibration, but apply it in a way where it's going to be more effective? And it's more effective for two reasons. One is that the vibrations apply directly to the hips and lumbar spine. And the other is it's in a form factor that makes it very easy for people to comply. So we applied to the NIH for a grant to help fund this study. And we did get a grant for that. The company also had to raise money to jointly fund the study. And we did a gold standard randomized controlled trial at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. And we enrolled 126 postmenopausal women with osteopenia. And, half got the active device, half got essentially a placebo device. No one knew that it was vibration. They were just told it was gentle energy. And then we analyzed the data, and we analyzed hip bone density, vertebral bone density, and we used CT scans. So it was a very, very objective, accurate way to measure. And what we saw is that in the lumbar spine, the group that got the treatment with Osteoboost had an 85% reduction in the rate of bone loss.
I saw that.
So we're essentially keeping them stable. And it was a huge result because it's very hard to show statistically significant benefit on imaging in 1 year for something without drugs, without pharma.
Right.
And we were able to do that.
Yes. Now, interesting, because forever, it seems, we were told the only way to build back bone and to really stop bone loss was with medication. And now we are seeing more and more studies, Osteoboost and its study aside, that lifting heavy, carrying heavy can actually reverse, with some people, bone loss. So there's new information about bone that's just coming out now that many medical experts, especially on social media, I see many of like Dr. Von der Wright, really encouraging people to start, put away because she's been on the show a few times, and she said, put away those pink mamby-pamby weights and start to lift heavy. And that is really what's going to make a difference. So I'm really curious about this. If someone is using Osteoboost, do they still need to do these other things? Is it a complement to, or what do you all recommend?
I'll tell you what I personally do, which is I use Osteoboost. I try to use it every day. I probably use it 5 times a week-ish, depends on my schedule. But I typically will use it first time I'm at my standing desk, I put it on. But I also lift weights. And by the way, that's for my bones and my muscles.
Right. That's right.
I have 6 grandchildren. I need to run after them. And
you need to lift them up.
So I think it's both. Another thing I tell people, I have friends who are very dedicated to their strength training. And they'll say, well, do I need Osteoboost? Because I'm doing strength training.
Good
and
question.
I say, how many days a week are you doing strength training? And the typical answer is maybe 2 or 3 days a week.
Right.
And that's pretty good. Well, what about the other 4 or 5 days, right? Your bones need stimulation every day. So these are not either or. And I think we all want to really do our best and optimize our bone health.
Absolutely. Because as you know, Laura, and we all know, especially all of us who have been involved in some way in the bone health field, as we have, is aging better is all about keeping your bones strong. If you don't, you're not going to be able to age better. It's just not going to be possible. People have been following me for a long time. It's just, they know the story about how my own mother fell and broke her hip. And she was an active person, more or less for her age. She was 84. And she spiraled downward very quickly. And within 2 years, she passed away because everything else got worse. And that is very common. So you can't really age better if you're going to be putting yourself in that kind of position. So I love what you were just saying about it. So it really is a compliment. It's a compliment to a really healthy lifestyle.
Right. And similarly, I wouldn't tell someone, well, use Osteoboost, but don't get the nutrition, right? It all works together, right? You want to have adequate protein and calcium and vitamin D so that your body can make bone as you're doing all of these activities. For women after menopause, you have to work hard to stay strong.
On everything, but especially building up our bones, as we know, because we go through menopause and then estrogen levels drop. And that's really what speeds everything up, of course, in a lot of ways. I mean, of course, but bone health and bone loss is one of them. But I did see in some information about Osteoboost that it works better. Tell me if I'm right or wrong about this. It works better, or you recommend it more for low bone density women, osteopenic women who are in their 50s as opposed to older. Is that so?
Well, no, not necessarily. And let me give you a slightly better or more accurate explanation of that. Our study enrolled postmenopausal women with osteopenia, low bone mass, between the ages of 50 and I think late 70s. I do know that our average age in the study was 61. So that means half the people in the study were over 60.
Right.
And overall, patients in the study had this benefit of 85% reduction in bone loss. Now, we saw a slightly higher effect size in the younger half. So the patients in their 50s had a slightly higher effect size, but the patients in their 60s still had positive effect. So it's what is probably happening is that our bones are more metabolically active when you're younger. And so the earlier you intervene, the better. And so my strong recommendation is don't wait till you're like borderline osteoporosis. As soon as you think you might have a concern with bone loss, intervene early and preserve that bone. But I will also say it's never too late.
Right.
There were
I always
older
say
women
that.
in the study who had very good results from Osteoboost. And so definitely it's never too late, although I'm really on a mantra to test early. Knowledge is power. Find out where your bone density is and really begin to optimize your bone health as early as possible.
And did Osteoboost affect the microarchitecture of the bones? I mean, were you able to go that deep into understanding what the impact actually was? Because I'm a big believer in the TBS test. And I always tell people, please, when you get your DEXA, go to a facility that also has that extra layer of information so that, especially if you are borderline for medication, this will help your healthcare provider to really help make that decision with you, I think, more accurately. So is there anything about that?
The DEXAs that we did in the study did not use TBS, but we did something even better, actually, which is we did a CT scan. I'm sure your listeners and CT it's like many, many x-rays, right? It's like a 3-dimensional x-ray view. So you have like layers of x-ray. You have a full 3-dimensional view of the bone. And we saw some very, very good microarchitecture changes. So for instance, our bones have cortical bone, that's like the shell bone around the bone, and then trabecular bone. And we saw increased cortical thickness.
That's incredible.
The active group. And that cortical bone is so important for fracture prevention.
Yeah.
We actually saw very, very positive changes at the architecture level of the bones. And we saw that in the CT scans. We saw bending stiffness. What are these vertebral compression fractures? Oftentimes it's people are bending forward too much, putting too much pressure on the front of the vertebrae, and they get these wedge fractures. And then that over time results in kyphosis, right? Like that hunch over position. So we saw actually resistance to that in the CT scan analysis on the vertebrae.
It's just incredible. Really, it's incredible. But again, this is designed for someone with low bone density, not yet with osteoporosis. Am I right? Or can it be used by someone with osteoporosis?
Okay. This was studied in patients with osteopenia. Why did we start there? Because we saw there's so many patients with osteopenia and they really lacked a safe and effective treatment. Typically, medicine will not be offered to them if they would even consider it. So, the norm for osteopenia is you're told weight-bearing exercise, optimized lifestyle. That's the typical. And those patients are typically then going to still lose bone. And so that was what we prioritized first because those patients we saw had this unmet need.
Right.
Now, we didn't study it in osteoporosis. That doesn't mean it doesn't work in osteoporosis. Vibration therapy generally, whole body vibration platforms have been studied in osteoporosis. But as a regular medical device, we can make claims around what we studied.
Right. Right.
And then if someone is like, well, I get questions at both ends of the spectrum, like my bone density is normal, but my mother had osteoporosis, so I'm very worried about it. Is it for me? Or I already have osteoporosis and I can't tolerate meds. Or I already have osteoporosis and I'm on meds, but maybe I could use this also. What we say is that is where your physician comes in. And you speak with your physician and they can analyze your personal health situation, look at the data from Osteoboost and other vibration therapies and give you guidance. So we are very proud to share what we've studied and where we saw that effect size. And in the future, we will do studies on osteoporosis too.
Got it. That makes sense. But it just seems logical to me that someone listening right now who may have osteoporosis, and I'm sure that many will be in that category, that this would be for them too. Like, I see no reason why not. And really, why not? Is there anyone who shouldn't be using Osteoboost?
We do have some sort of things on the warning label. Like, for instance, if someone recently had implants in their spine or hips, especially if those are recent. And what we say is speak with your orthopedic surgeon, right?
Of course.
What's best for you.
But that's a special circumstance. But a normal person who's just worried about bone loss, it doesn't sound as though there is anyone who wouldn't qualify to use Osteoboost.
What we can say is that vibration therapy is generally well tolerated. There are sort of standards in the US around safe limits for vibration, and we fully analyze those, and we have kept our device to be within sort of safety limits. So, you only use it for 30 minutes. It's calibrated. There's a very precise sort of dose of vibration that is found to be safe. Our study had 0 serious adverse effects. And so that was part of what we reported to the FDA. And we are a class 2 device, so it's seen as a relatively low risk, although we are a prescription device, so it should be within the care of a doctor because someone with osteopenia already is at elevated risk for fracture.
That's right.
And we really want patients to work with their doctor about their bone density, just like they would for their cardiac health. It is so important, and we're not their doctor. I hope every one of your listeners is working with their doctor to optimize their bone health. And we want to be part of that, and we want to get the word out. But yeah, I'm obviously just very passionate about that topic.
Yes, of course. And also I want to put in a little plug for the Bone Health and Osteoporosis Foundation. Please, everyone, always go to their website for up to the minute information about having that lifestyle, lifting heavy or lifting properly for you. And everything is personalized. Really, it is. I mean, that is the direction that medicine is taking and has been taking for a while. Every healthcare provider or medical expert I have on the show always says this. It's like a mantra throughout the medical field, is it's personalized. This is not a one for all. And so you have to work in partnership with your healthcare provider to figure out if it's really right for you. I have a question though also about, so it's positioned, or as you mentioned, it's like a belt low on the hips. So I can picture like where it goes around. So it's very targeted because then it's targeting the hip area, the lumbar, the spine. But what about the other areas of the body? I know you said they have those stands, that vibrating stands, right, and the like. I've seen them for years, but I myself broke my arm shortly after going through menopause. And that's when I had my first DEXA and found out, lo and behold, I had low bone density. So are you thinking about coming up with, like, I could picture like bands to put around your forearms and the like? Is that the future?
Yeah. So as a startup, we can't do 10 things at once.
Right.
And we prioritized the most important, i.e. hip, and most common, i.e. vertebral area for fractures. Also, an important detail is the CT scan analysis that we did was L1. So that is 5 vertebral bodies above the sacrum, above where the belt is positioned.
Yes.
So we know that, the vibration is
goes up
the skeleton reasonably well. And I've also since learned that L1 and T12, which is the one just above, are the most common fracture sites. So
that's right.
You know that we are reaching L1 very well and getting a good amount of vibration and therapeutic vibration dose to that area. And on the DEXA scan, it wasn't statistically significant, but we saw a very, very good trend towards a good effect on the hip.
Yeah.
I would very much love to do the wrist. I'm one of these people with super thin wrists. So
thin wrists, yep.
You do not want to fall on them.
No, like I did. That's exactly, I mean, it wasn't a terrible break, but it was a fracture, but a fracture nevertheless for a fall that wasn't very hard or high. So I was a little shocked.
I won't name names, but a girlfriend of mine, we were all camping together. And in the middle of the night, she walked out of her tent and there was the lip,
and she tripped,
broke the wrist, had to be taken out of the rafting trip. Her husband's an orthopedic surgeon. I was like, we know what's going on here. He's like, yeah. And she was 50s. So it is the common fracture of the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Women break their wrists, right?
Yep.
So your reaction time is usually still pretty good. So when you trip and fall, you get your hands out and then fall and
that's
break
why
the
it's
wrist.
broken.
Now, sadly, in our 80s, when we trip and fall, because
Yes.
things still happen,
Yep.
we don't always get our hands out, and then we're falling onto the hip.
Yes, as what happened with my mother. Yeah.
Have protected other parts of the body. So it's oftentimes what brings people in for the DEXA and the diagnosis. And by the way, I think with AI, we're not so far away from these other x-rays like wrist x-rays or chest x-rays being able to essentially diagnose osteopenia.
Yeah, really incredible.
Because the bone loss is systemic.
Yeah.
I saw a company that was trying to assess bone density from dental x-rays. So wouldn't that be amazing if we got a dental x-ray, which the dentists are pretty good about encouraging us to do that, because just like osteoporosis is silent, cavities are often silent. And so that's how we know about and to optimize our oral health. So as you can see, I'm really into early diagnosis.
Yes. No, I think it's important. And also the area that you've decided to target is the most important area, because that's the area, if you fall and break something, your hip, let's say, that you can spiral downward and die prematurely. That's just a fact, not will, but your risk is much, much greater than if you break your wrist. So I'm glad that you chose that area of the body as your starting point.
So the hip fractures are deadly, as essentially what happened with your mother, and it happens pretty often. If the person survives, they oftentimes lose independence. Vertebral compression fractures are not as deadly, but unlike wrist fractures, there's not a good treatment, right? People are usually just told to take painkillers and let it heal. So you don't, that vertebrae is forever compressed, right? And you've lost that height. You're potentially getting into kyphosis. Sometimes they'll do, vertebroplasty or kyphoplasty and try to prop that vertebrae up, but the results from those aren't so great. They're not great surgery. So in general, we don't have, I think a typical orthopedic surgeon would say we don't have great treatments for vertebral compression fractures.
That's right.
And they're the most common. So
I think the big message here is that we want to avoid those fractures at all times for the rest of our lives. We just do not want them. So we're looking at what are the strategies that we can embrace to give us the best shot at not succumbing to one of those fractures. That lifestyle, making sure calcium-rich foods, vitamin D, of course, big believer in that. The lifting heavy or whatever exercises that you really can do in partnership. But then something like this is a great tool to add to the toolkit.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much downside.
No.
Right? I mean, someone would have to pay for the device. We're working on insurance coverage, but generally speaking, it's still self-pay. But we've tried to price it affordably. You can use FSA and HSA. We'll have additional programs in the future. It's, for most patients, it feels pretty good. It's pretty comfortable. There's no reason why it can't be used in addition to the other things.
Right.
I can't think of anything that it has to replace.
Right. That's right. And let's talk about costs. I mean, that was my next question.
Sure.
I don't know if you can give us a ballpark of what a typical cost would be. And it's a per month, per week. And is this I'm assuming it's a lifetime thing.
Ideally, you would use the device indefinitely.
Indefinitely.
Because as long as you live, you're at risk of losing bone, and we want to maintain that bone. Let's say you use it for 5 years, and each of those years you preserved 2% of your bone that you would have otherwise lost. And then, so you've preserved 10%, let's imagine that. And then you stop using it, you're 10% better off forever. You'll start to lose at a faster rate, but you're still better off. So I think
Mm-hmm.
That work that you've done to preserve your bones, you don't lose that.
Mm-hmm.
You just go forward. So today we sell it as essentially like a fixed price product. So you buy the device, you own it forever. We provide a warranty, and we bundle in with that a year of, we have an osteoporosis specific exercise program, which is from the Wellin acquisition. So you get 1 year of the program. And then if you want to renew, you can. And there's an additional cost when you renew subsequent years. The self-pay price today is $995. As I mentioned, you can use FSA and HSA. We have gotten requests from patients to do it as more of a subscription monthly model. And we plan to do that, but we don't have that fully set yet.
Mm-hmm. So it's about $1,000, a little under $1,000 is what we're talking about. One-time fee at the moment, unless you go with a different kind of plan.
Well, and I think we have this other plan. It would be an alternative.
An alternative. Okay. Got it. And right now, insurance, as you said, does not cover it, but you're working on that.
We have had a couple of patients get it covered, but we don't tell people to assume that quite yet.
Right.
But we are working on that. Unfortunately, for devices, as opposed to drugs, sometimes it can take a little while to get Medicare and insurance companies to cover it.
Mm-hmm. But you're working on it, and that's really good news. And so where can people get it? Is it currently available?
You can order it from our website right now.
Okay. And the website, everyone, will be the link to the website, as well as some other information about Osteoboost and Laura will be in the show notes. So do check it out. But go ahead.
Osteoboost.com, and you can pre-order, and the first devices should be shipping like momentarily. We actually have sold a lot of devices already. So if someone is interested in getting one, it's kind of first come, first serve. So they should kind of get their order in.
But again, it's prescription. You must have a prescription to get it.
So the way the process works is you come to our website and you order. And then at the end of the ordering process, we basically say, download this form and have your doctor sign it. Or many of the electronic medical records now have Osteoboost in it. So hopefully the patient's doctor could also just order it through their online system.
Got it.
And then we are rolling out a telehealth option. So it's essentially an online way that patients can interact with a doctor, and that's in 47 out of 50 states to start, so almost throughout the country. And that's a very easy way that they can get a prescription.
That's wonderful. Telehealth has become such a big part of the whole menopause push, if you will, to get people more focused on menopause and really thinking about it and talking about it more. And all of these really great telehealth companies have popped up over the last 5 years, especially like the last 3.
Yeah.
And focusing and helping women to really have greater access and easier access, because it isn't always easy, as we know. There are very few doctors in this country who understand what menopause really is, let alone are true certified specialists in menopause. So this is going to be great. I'm really happy to hear that.
And I am in communication. We are in discussions with some of those companies. And one of the things I'm so happy about, and one of the reasons why we want to work with them, is many of them are focused on bone health. So
of course.
They'll order DEXAs and counsel patients around bone health. So we just really need to get the focus on this and get people aware of their bone health status and doing what they need to do, because it's what makes the difference between sort of, frankly, quality of life as we get older.
I think it's brilliant for you to get more plugged into the whole menopause sphere. I mean, there are a lot of celebrities also who have come out and said they have low bone density. And, you know, it's no longer being viewed, I think, as, oh, you must be very old to have bone loss, because we know that's not true.
Right. I mean, I think Emma Stone talked about her osteopenia. I think she was 37.
Mm-hmm.
No, that was Gwyneth Paltrow,
Yeah.
excuse me, mentioned her osteopenia. And Emma Stone was on TV and talked about fractures that she said, and she's young. So, no, this is very important even for younger people. I think it's pretty typical to get osteopenia in the 50s. So if that's the
Absolutely.
average, then half the people get osteopenia younger than average. So that could be 40s, right?
I was exactly 50 when I fell and walking my dog and broke my arm. The incident I was telling you about. And I had just come out of menopause. I was menopausal at 49, almost 50. So it was no surprise because my estrogen levels had dropped so much.
Right.
But let's just talk about you for a minute. You've led some big tech companies. You have an incredible background, so impressive. So what surprised you most about creating a medical device? I mean, compared to what you've been doing in the past, was this like just a total, I guess you can be more passionate about this in a way.
I'm enjoying it more. But I don't know if that's a surprise. I really was hoping that there's something about working on a product and then having your friends who also have osteopenia say, oh my God, I can't wait till that product comes out. I need that product. My mother needs that product. My sister needs that product. So it's really rewarding. I feel like I have the best of what I used to do in tech that I really loved, which is the ability to build a product that can touch millions of people. Okay, we're thinking big, tens of millions of people here.
Yes, well, yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yep.
Both the device and the software. So I feel like I have the exciting parts of what I had in tech, but where I just feel like we can have so much of a positive impact and a positive impact in something that is very tangible and real. And frankly, for older women, it's also important to me to work on a problem for that group because they've been almost ignored. And in general, osteoporosis has been ignored. I mean, how many drugs are in the pipeline right now? Zero. Right? So frankly, from a business point of view, it's a huge opportunity for us, but it also is more gratifying.
Yes.
I hear older women say, or write in Facebook or other things like, well, my doctor's pushing drugs, but it's really just a natural part of aging. And I'm like, yeah, it is a natural part of aging. And so are heart attacks. And we don't, we're fighting against that. Sure, we won't live forever, but we want to live strong. And I want us to fight against frailty. And so I feel so lucky that I get to do this as my work.
Yeah. No, it's an amazing product backed by science, backed by NASA. I shouldn't say it's backed by NASA, but backed by NASA science, which is really very, very incredible.
NASA science, and then also just rigorous clinical evidence standard of a randomized controlled trial. And then the data from that trial was closely evaluated by the FDA. And they evaluated it for both safety and effectiveness because it's a class 2 device. And one little interesting tidbit is we were a de novo clearance. So many class 2 devices are sort of essentially approved because they're substantially equivalent to predicate devices. It's very rare for startups to get a de novo clearance. In the history of the FDA, when we were approved, there had only been, I think, 15 or 16 orthopedic devices cleared.
Wow.
So we were held to a very high standard, and we worked hard to do that and to get through that. And I think that can give patients comfort or knowledge that there is good evidence. And frankly, and we want to partner with doctors. And now they're part of this whole prescription medical process.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. You have to get the word out, the message out to the healthcare providers so they can recommend it to their patients.
We are seeing leading clinical groups. Dozens of academic medical centers, we're already seeing prescriptions by those groups. So they've seen the science, they've seen our manuscript online. And so, yeah, that's really exciting. I grew up in a family of doctors. And so.
Oh, so this feels very, very natural to you.
I get to contribute in this field a little bit.
It's just really wonderful because, again, I've been a part of the bone health universe for well over 10 years since I've been a part of the Bone Health and Osteoporosis Foundation as a board member, and really focused on everything I do in my books and articles I do. I have a column in AARP. I'm always focused on bone health and really not fighting frailty, as you just put it. So important to aging better. To me, that's the backbone of aging better and aging well. And you're right, it's not about extending your life necessarily, but it's really about that health span. It's really having a good life as long as you can. And so that's my goal, my personal goal, my goal in getting that message out. And I really want to thank you all for this. In fact, I'm telling you, I want to start using it because I do have low bone density. I'm getting older.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I'm a candidate. So before I let you go, Laura, and wow, thank you so much for all this time. I really do appreciate it. What are your 3 biggest takeaways that you really want to make sure this audience remembers from our conversation today?
Knowledge is power. So know what your bone density is. Ask your doctor to order a DEXA, get your T-score. And then I would say do everything you can to optimize your bone health. If you have osteopenia, I'd encourage you to talk to your doctor about incorporating Osteoboost amongst, Osteoboost, nutrition, exercise. And then one of my favorite things to do is to hike with friends and do things with friends. And it turns out, I think we need strong bones, but we also need strong friendships. So maybe do some osteoboosting with your friends and family.
Start an Osteoboost club.
Yes.
Hey, everyone, if you have any follow-up questions for Laura, please just put them into an email, send to agebetterpodcast@gmail.com. I'll make sure I get them to Laura, and I know that Laura will be kind enough to respond. So
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone. And again, check out those show notes for more information about Osteoboost. It's all there in the links. And Laura, thank you so much.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode of Age Better Podcast, please do a few things. First, share it with all your friends and family. Then, subscribe to Age Better wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube, so you never miss a single episode. Finally, if you have ideas for topics you want me to cover in a future episode of Age Better, send an email to agebetterpodcast@gmail.com. or reach out to me on social media. Until next time, remember this: we can't control getting older, but we can control how we do it. Talk to you soon. Age Better Podcast is a proud member of the Sound Advice Network. Sound Advice, women's voices amplified.